The morning alarm buzzed through Alex's small apartment in New Tokyo, but they were already awake, staring at the acceptance letter on their desk. 3 months ago, applying to the Galactic Educational Exchange seemed like a joke between friends. Now the holographic seal of the Altarian Collective glowed softly in the dim light, making everything real. Down the hall, Sam was packing the last of their belongings into regulation travel containers. The weight restrictions were strict, and every item had to pass through multiple screening processes. No Earth bacteria could contaminate alien environments, and no technology could accidentally cause diplomatic incidents. Sam folded their favorite sweater, wondering if they would ever feel cold again on a space station designed for beings who evolved under gentle suns. River sat in their parents' kitchen, trying to explain for the 100th time why they wanted to leave Earth. Their mother worried about the food, the air, the gravity differences. Their father worried about everything else. River had been dreaming of the stars since childhood, but now that departure was 3 days away, the dreams felt heavier than expected. Casey and Morgan met at the spaceport early, watching the morning shuttles launch toward the orbital platforms. Other travelers moved around them with purpose and familiarity, but the two humans felt like children at their first day of school. Morgan carried a small notebook filled with alien greeting customs they had memorized. Casey had downloaded 17 different translation apps, none of which worked properly with galactic standard languages. The selection process had been brutal. Out of 12 million applicants, only 5 humans would represent Earth at Harmony Station. Each candidate underwent months of psychological evaluations, cultural sensitivity training, and basic survival courses for non-terrestrial environments. The Galactic Council wanted humans who could adapt, learn, and most importantly, not cause interstellar incidents. Ambassador Thex had visited Earth personally to oversee the final selections. His tall, graceful form and 6 arms made him look like something from ancient mythology, but his patience with nervous human teenagers impressed everyone. He spoke through a translation device that made his voice sound like wind chimes, gentle and musical. During the final interviews, he asked each candidate the same question. "Why do you want to leave the safety of your world for the unknown?" Alex had answered honestly. "Because the unknown won't stay unknown if we never look at it." Sam said they wanted to understand how other species solved problems humans still struggled with. River talked about wanting to see if the universe was as beautiful as Earth's night sky suggested. Casey wanted to learn alien music and art forms. Morgan simply said they were curious about everything. The ambassador's response had been thoughtful. "Curiosity is both humanity's greatest strength and its most dangerous trait. In the galaxy, curiosity must be balanced with wisdom." Now, 3 days before departure, all 5 students gathered at the Kennedy Space Center for final preparations. The launch facility bustled with activity as technicians prepared the transport vessel. Unlike the military ships that had carried Earth's first ambassadors, this vessel was designed for comfort and safety. Soft lighting, adjustable gravity fields, and air recycling systems that could accommodate human biology without compromising the ship's other passengers. Dr. Peterson, Earth's liaison to the Galactic Council, briefed them one final time. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes who had spent 5 years learning to navigate alien bureaucracy. "Remember, you're not just students anymore. Every action you take reflects on humanity's future in galactic society. Some species still believe we're too primitive for membership. Others think we're too aggressive. You need to prove them wrong without proving them right." The weight of representation settled on young shoulders. These 5 teenagers would be the first humans most aliens ever met. Their behavior would shape opinions about Earth for generations to come. No pressure at all. The transport arrived 2 days early, sleek and silver with engines that hummed rather than roared. Its crew consisted of 3 different species, none of whom looked particularly impressed by their human passengers. The captain, a being with blue-green skin and large dark eyes, introduced herself as Commander Vel. She spoke perfect English, with a slight accent that sounded almost familiar. The journey to Harmony Station takes 12 standard days, she explained. You'll be in hibernation for most of it. The process is safe, but some species experience strange dreams during extended sleep cycles. Humans are an unknown variable, so we'll monitor you carefully. The hibernation pods looked like something between a bed and a medical scanner. Each pod was customized for human physiology, with monitoring systems that would track everything, from brain activity to bone density changes during the journey. The students climbed in nervously, exchanging final glances before the lids closed and consciousness faded away. Alex dreamed of floating through endless corridors filled with beings of light and shadow. Sam found themselves playing games with creatures made of music and mathematics. River flew through gardens that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Casey attended concerts where the instruments were living crystals. Morgan had conversations with entities who communicated through color and emotion rather than words. When they woke, Harmony Station filled the viewports like a small moon. The structure was enormous beyond comprehension, with sections dedicated to different atmospheric requirements, gravity preferences, and social needs. Docking bays dotted its surface like craters, and the constant flow of ships made it look alive and breathing. Commander Vel helped them adjust to consciousness after hibernation. Your species recovers quickly, she noted with something that might have been approval. Most beings need several hours to regain full cognitive function. The docking process took 30 minutes as their ship navigated through traffic control protocols and safety checks. Each approaching vessel underwent scans to ensure they carried no dangerous materials, biological contaminants, or unauthorized technology. Earth's students watched through portholes as ships of impossible designs glided past them, carrying passengers whose existence challenged everything humans thought they knew about life. Director Nal waited at the docking bay with a small welcoming committee. His iridescent skin shifted colors as he spoke, and his forearms moved in patterns that seemed to convey meaning beyond his words. Welcome to Harmony Station, humanity's newest students. Your quarters have been prepared, and your class schedules have been designed to ease your transition into galactic academic standards. As they walked through the station's corridors, the humans tried not to stare at their fellow students. Beings of crystal and gas, creatures with too many limbs or no limbs at all, entities that seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially somewhere else entirely. The diversity was overwhelming and wonderful and terrifying all at once. Their dormitory wing had been specially prepared with Earth-normal atmosphere and gravity. The rooms were small but comfortable, with viewports showing the vast starfield beyond the station. Each student had a personal communication device, a universal translator, and detailed guides to station regulations, emergency procedures, and cultural etiquette for 47 different species. That first night, the 5 humans gathered in Alex's room and looked out at the stars. Tomorrow, they would begin classes alongside beings whose evolution had taken paths humanity could barely imagine. They would learn sciences that didn't exist on Earth, study philosophies based on completely different ways of experiencing reality, and hopefully prove that humans deserved a place in the vast community of galactic civilization. None of them suspected that their biggest challenge would come from something as simple as gym class. The Academy's morning routine began with gentle tones that gradually increased in volume, designed to ease students of various species into wakefulness without causing stress or panic. For most of Harmony Station's inhabitants, this system worked perfectly. For humans, who had evolved to wake instantly at the first sign of potential danger, it was almost comically inadequate. River was already dressed and reading course materials when the wake-up tones reached their peak volume. 3 rooms away? Morgan had been awake for an hour, quietly practicing alien greeting gestures in front of their mirror. The other human students were similarly alert, their internal clocks struggling to adapt to the station's artificial day cycle. The dining hall served breakfast that accommodated hundreds of different dietary requirements. Crystalline beings absorbed pure energy from specialized feeding stations. Gas form entities merged temporarily with atmospheric dispensers to consume whatever passed for nutrition in their biology. Aquatic species floated in mobile water tanks while consuming nutrient-rich algae preparations. The humans stood in line at the only solid food station, trying not to seem obviously confused by the options. Everything was safe for human consumption, according to their dietary analysis charts, but nothing looked familiar. Alex chose something that resembled fruit, while Sam opted for what might have been grain-based porridge. The taste was acceptable, though completely alien to their Earth-trained palates. Casey sat at a mixed-species table, attempting to make conversation with a being that looked like a walking plant, and another that seemed to be made of organized liquid. The translation devices worked adequately for basic communication, but nuance and humor were often lost in the process. Still, their table mates seemed genuinely curious about human culture and biology. "Your species requires such frequent nutrition intake," observed the plant being, whose name translated roughly to photosynthetic joy in growth. "Most efficient organisms derive energy directly from stellar radiation or mineral absorption." "We're not very efficient," Casey admitted, "but we're pretty good at adapting to whatever's available." The liquid being, called something like flowing thoughts in current, rippled with what might have been amusement. "Adaptation suggests change over time. Your form appears quite fixed." "We adapt with tools and technology," Casey explained. "We change our environment instead of changing ourselves." This concept seemed to fascinate their companions, who began asking questions about human technology and problem-solving methods. Casey found themselves describing everything from agriculture to space travel while trying to eat breakfast that tasted like sweet metal. After morning meal period, students gathered for daily activity assignments. The Academy believed strongly in physical wellness as a foundation for mental development, and all students participated in regular exercise programs. These programs were carefully designed to accommodate the vast range of physiological needs represented in the student body. Professor Zim emerged from the faculty area, moving with the liquid grace typical of his species. The Kepler natives had evolved on a world with gravity barely 1/4 that of Earth, and their elongated limbs and delicate build reflected millions of years of peaceful development. He moved like a dancer, or perhaps like a being made of air and light. "Physical education serves multiple purposes in galactic society," he explained to the assembled students. "It promotes individual health, teaches cooperation between species, and provides structured social interaction in a controlled environment. Violence and competition are unknown concepts in proper physical education." The human students exchanged glances at this statement. Alex had played competitive sports throughout high school. Sam had been on their university's rugby team before. Selection for the exchange program. River, Casey, and Morgan had all participated in various Earth sports that were based entirely on competition and controlled conflict. "Today, we introduce our newest students to Harmony Ball," Professor Zim continued. "This activity exemplifies the principles of galactic physical education: cooperation, grace, and mutual support." The gymnasium was an impressive facility with transparent walls offering views of the star field beyond. Artificial gravity fields could be adjusted for different species' needs, and the atmospheric composition was precisely controlled to accommodate everyone's respiratory requirements. Equipment storage areas contained devices designed for beings with various numbers of limbs, different sensory capabilities, and wildly varying physical structures. The humans were assigned to different teams to promote integration with other species. Alex found themselves with Wix, a gaseous being who existed as a loosely organized cloud of sentient particles. Pip, a small crystalline entity that communicated through harmonic resonances, and 3 other students from various peaceful worlds. Professor Zim demonstrated the equipment. The Harmony Ball was a sphere of translucent material that glowed softly, with internal light. It weighs precisely 0.3 standard units, he said, lifting it with the gentlest possible motion. The platforms are stabilized to prevent any sudden movements that might cause injury or distress. The platforms themselves floated at various heights throughout the gymnasium space. Each one was equipped with gravity manipulators that allowed students to move between them using controlled bursts of directional force. The system was designed for species whose physical capabilities had developed in peaceful environments, where sudden movements were unnecessary and potentially dangerous. The objective is simple, Professor Zim explained. Teams work together to move the ball from the starting platform to the goal platform. Physical contact with opponents is forbidden. Aggressive behavior results in immediate suspension from the activity. The emphasis is on cooperation, strategy, and graceful movement. Sam watched the demonstration with growing comprehension. This wasn't sports, as humans understood the concept. There was no winning or losing, no competition, no physical challenge. It was more like group meditation with a glowing ball. Morgan raised their hand. Professor, what if someone drops the ball? Dropping the ball is impossible, Professor Zim replied. The gravitational fields are precisely calibrated to prevent such accidents. The ball will gently float in place until retrieved. What if someone moves too fast between platforms? The safety systems prevent excessive velocity. Students cannot exceed safe movement parameters. River tried to understand the physics involved. How do you define safe movement parameters? Based on standard species physiology, Professor Zim said, the systems accommodate beings from Kepler, Altair, Serenity Prime, and 47 other worlds. The parameters ensure no participant can accidentally harm themselves or others through sudden or excessive movement. The human students began to realize they might have a problem. Earth wasn't listed among the 47 worlds whose physiological parameters had been programmed into the safety systems. Their planet was classified as a class, thus the Deathworld, a category so dangerous that most galactic citizens couldn't imagine how intelligent life had evolved there at all. Are we included in the safety parameters? Alex asked carefully. Professor Zim's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign that he was accessing information through his neural interface. Ah, humans. Yes, your species has been assigned theoretical parameters based on your reported physical capabilities. The systems should accommodate you adequately. The word theoretical hung in the air like a warning none of the humans could ignore. Their reported physical capabilities had been gathered from medical examinations and fitness tests conducted in sterile laboratory conditions. No one had tested human reflexes, strength, or movement capabilities in an actual physical activity designed for beings from peaceful worlds. Casey looked at the floating platforms, designed for creatures who had never needed to jump, climb, or move quickly to survive. Sam examined the gentle gravity manipulators meant for species who had never developed the muscle density necessary for life under heavy gravity. River studied the delicate ball that had never encountered grip strength, evolved for grasping tools and weapons. Remember, Professor Zim said as students moved to their starting positions, gentle movements only. The goal is cooperative exercise, not physical achievement. The humans took their positions alongside teammates whose evolutionary history included no predators, no dangerous weather, no scarcity of resources, and no need for physical competition. Around them, other students prepared for an activity that was less like sports and more like synchronized floating meditation. Alex gripped the safety handles on their platform and tried to remember the cultural sensitivity training about restraint and appropriate behavior. Sam reviewed the rules one more time, focusing on the prohibition against sudden movements. River, Casey, and Morgan positioned themselves carefully, hyper-aware that they were about to participate in their first group activity with alien classmates. Professor Zim activated the game systems. Begin when ready. Remember, cooperation, grace, and harmony. The other teams started their activities with movements so gentle they barely seemed to be in motion at all. Students floated between platforms like leaves drifting on a breeze, passing the glowing ball with touches so light they barely transferred momentum. Then the ball came to Alex and everything changed. What happened next would be analyzed by xenobiologists, engineers, and diplomatic specialists for decades to come. But in that moment, Alex simply caught the ball the way any human would catch something thrown to them, moved the way any human would move to maintain balance, and threw the ball to a teammate with the casual accuracy developed by millions of years of hunting and tool use. The gymnasium's safety systems had never encountered anything like it. The other students had never seen anything like it. Professor Zim had never imagined anything like it was possible, and this was only the beginning. The first sign something was wrong came when Alex moved to intercept the glowing ball. What other students perceived as impossibly fast movement was actually Alex holding back, trying to match the gentle pace of their alien classmates. Their human reflexes, evolved for split-second reactions to charging predators and falling objects, engaged automatically when the ball approached. Alex's leap between platforms covered 3 times the distance the safety systems expected. Their landing triggered structural stress warnings from the platform stabilizers, which had been designed for beings whose bone density and muscle mass evolved under gentle conditions. The platform held, but barely, emitting a low harmonic warning tone that none of the other students had ever heard before. Wicks, Alex's gaseous teammate, rippled with what might have been concern or confusion. The concept of sudden movement was so foreign to their experience that they struggled to process what they had just witnessed. Pip resonated at a frequency that their translation device interpreted as impossible velocity detected. But Alex had successfully intercepted the ball, and now they needed to pass it to a teammate. This should have been simple. Every human child learns to throw and catch objects as part of normal development. The skill is so fundamental that humans rarely think about the physics involved, calculating trajectory, adjusting for gravity and air resistance, compensating for the target's movement. The gentle harmony ball, designed to be passed with the lightest possible touch between beings who had never needed to develop accurate throwing abilities, suddenly found itself gripped by fingers evolved for making tools and wielding weapons. Alex's pass to Sam was instinctive, automatic, and completely beyond the parameters programmed into the gymnasium's safety systems. The ball crossed the space between platforms in a perfectly straight line at a velocity that made several alien students emit distress calls. Sam, reacting with equally evolved human reflexes, caught it without thinking. The impact of the ball against their palms would have shattered the delicate appendages of most galactic species, but Sam's hands had been designed by evolution to absorb much greater forces. Professor Zim watched from the sidelines as his carefully controlled, peaceful exercise activity transformed into something he had no words to describe. The humans moved through his gymnasium like beings from another universe, casually performing feats that violated everything he understood about safe physical activity. River, seeing the ball in Sam's possession, positioned themselves for the next pass. The platform they chose was slightly higher than their current position, requiring what they considered a small hop to reach it. River's small hop launched them through the air in an arc that carried them well beyond their intended platform, and halfway across the gymnasium. The anti-gravity systems, detecting movement patterns they had never been programmed to handle, began making rapid adjustments to try to slow River's motion. This resulted in conflicting gravitational fields that made other students float in unexpected directions while River sailed through the space like a human-shaped projectile. Casey, attempting to demonstrate the gentle participation, emphasized, in their cultural training, moved to a receiving position. When River's slightly panicked throw reached them, Casey made what they considered a soft, careful catch. The ball compressed in their grip, its delicate construction never having encountered the strength of hands evolved for survival on a death world. The sound of the ball's outer shell cracking was audible throughout the gymnasium. Casey looked down at the damaged sphere in horror, realizing they had just broken what was probably expensive and irreplaceable alien equipment. The ball's internal illumination flickered and dimmed as its structural integrity failed. "I barely touched it," Casey said to no one in particular, their voice carrying clearly through the gymnasium's suddenly still air. Morgan, who had been moving carefully toward a platform near the goal area, found themselves dealing with a different problem. The platform they had chosen was designed for students weighing no more than 40 kilograms in standard gravity. Morgan's human physiology, adapted for Earth's heavy gravity and dense atmosphere, put them well beyond the platform's weight tolerance. The platform's gravity generator, struggling to maintain stability under unexpected load, began to oscillate. Morgan felt the surface beneath their feet vibrating ominously and tried to move to a different platform. Their careful step became an involuntary leap as the failing gravity generator provided an unintended boost to their movement. Morgan flew through the air with their arms windmilling frantically, crossing the gymnasium in a trajectory that took them over, under, and around their startled alien classmates. They landed on a platform near the goal with enough force to trigger every emergency system in that section of the gymnasium. Meanwhile, Sam had been trying to continue the game with the assumption that their teammates wanted them to score. Humans had been playing competitive sports for thousands of years, and the basic concepts of teamwork, strategy, and goal-oriented play were instinctive. Sam analyzed the field with the tactical awareness of a species that had spent millennia as both predators and prey. The other alien students moved with such predictable, gentle patterns that Sam could easily anticipate their positions several moves in advance. What Sam failed to realize was that the aliens weren't trying to block or intercept the ball. The concept of opposition or interference was foreign to their understanding of physical activity. Sam's path to the goal involved what they considered basic maneuvering, quick direction changes, sudden stops, and rapid acceleration between platforms. Each movement triggered new stress warnings from the gymnasium's overtaxed safety systems. The platforms Sam landed on registered impacts far beyond their design specifications. Alex, seeing Sam's tactical approach, moved to provide passing support. The teamwork between the two humans was flawless by Earth standards. They communicated through glances and gestures, anticipated each other's movements, and executed plays with precision that spoke to their species' evolution as pack hunters. The watching aliens, it looked like the humans had gone insane. They moved at impossible speeds, leaped impossible distances, and handled the equipment with impossible strength. The gentle, meditative exercise of Harmony Ball had been transformed into something that resembled combat more than recreation. Professor Zim found his voice when Morgan's platform landing triggered the gymnasium's emergency response protocols. Automated safety systems activated throughout the facility, bathing everything in pulsing red light while alert tones echoed off the walls. Gravity fields stabilized at default settings, atmospheric circulation increased to handle elevated stress. Pheromones from panicked students and medical response drones emerged from hidden alcoves. "Stop!" Professor Zim called out, his melodious voice carrying easily through the chaos. "Everyone stop moving immediately!" The alien students, already frozen in shock at the humans' performance, needed no encouragement to remain perfectly still. The humans, trained from childhood to respond to emergency commands, stopped moving instantly. Alex froze mid-leap between platforms, supported by the gymnasium's emergency gravity fields. Sam stopped so suddenly that their platform's inertial dampeners had to engage to prevent structural damage. River, Casey, and Morgan stood motionless wherever they had ended up, looking around at the flashing lights and confused alien faces. The silence that followed was broken only by the continued alert tones and the soft whimpering sounds coming from several severely distressed alien students. Wicks had dispersed into a cloud twice their normal size, a stress response that their species employed when confronting incomprehensible danger. Pip was resonating at frequencies that made the translation devices emit static. Other students had retreated to the edges of the gymnasium, as far from the humans as possible. Professor Zim approached the center of the gymnasium slowly, his 4 eyes wide with something between fascination and terror. The equipment damage was extensive. Stress fractures in 3 platforms, a completely destroyed harmony ball, gravity generators running far beyond safe parameters, and safety systems that would need complete recalibration. What? Professor Zim asked in a voice that carried across the still gymnasium. Was that? Alex, still suspended in midair by emergency gravity fields, tried to find words to explain. We were playing the game. You destroyed everything, Pippi. Resonated in harmonics that their translation device rendered as barely controlled panic. We were being careful, Sam protested. We didn't even run. This statement was met with silence so profound that the humans could hear their own heartbeats echoing in their ears. Around them, alien students tried to process the concept that what they had just witnessed represented restraint on the humans. Professor Zim moved closer to examine the damaged ball in Casey's hands. The sphere that had been designed to withstand the gentlest handling of civilized species had been compressed, cracked, and partially crushed by what the human considered a careful catch. You were being careful, Professor Zim repeated. Very careful, Casey confirmed. I didn't want to hurt anyone. The professor's iridescent skin shifted through colors the humans had never seen before. He was accessing his neural interface, probably calling for assistance from the Academy's administration, engineering department, and possibly security forces. Around the gymnasium, emergency systems continued their automated responses while alien students remained frozen in shock. The humans stood in the middle of the destruction, confused about what they had done wrong, and beginning to realize that their presence at Harmony Station might be more complicated than anyone had anticipated. River looked around at the damaged equipment and traumatized classmates. Are we in trouble? The question hung in the air as Professor Zim tried to find an answer that made sense. How do you explain to beings from a peaceful universe that they had just encountered apex predators who considered their performance restrained and gentle? The gymnasium doors opened as Director Nal and several faculty members entered, drawn by the emergency alerts. Their expressions as they surveyed the scene would become the subject of diplomatic analysis for years to come. The humans' first day of physical education was over, but their real education about their place in galactic society was just beginning. Director Nal's office had never hosted such an unusual gathering. The 5 human students sat in specially, reinforced chairs while faculty members from 12 different departments floated, perched, or arranged themselves around the room according to their various physiological needs. The atmosphere was thick with tension and the lingering scent of stress pheromones from multiple species. Chief Engineer Toll examined the gymnasium damage reports through his neural interface, his mechanical arms clicking rhythmically as he processed the data. His species had evolved from tool-using creatures on a world rich in metals and crystals, and they understood structural engineering better than most galactic races. What he was reading challenged his understanding of physics and material science. The platform stabilizers were rated for forces up to 500% of standard species parameters, he reported, his translated voice carrying notes of mechanical precision. According to these readings, the humans exceeded that threshold during what they describe as normal recreational movement. Dr. Mel, the Academy's head xenobiologist, studied the humans with undisguised fascination. Her species had spent millennia cataloging life forms throughout the galaxy, but they had never encountered anything quite like these Deathworlders. Their cardiovascular responses during the activity are remarkable, heart rates that would indicate life-threatening distress in any known species, yet they showed no signs of fatigue or discomfort. "We felt fine," Alex confirmed. "Actually, we felt pretty good. It was nice to move around after sitting in classes all week." Dr. Mel's skin patterns shifted to colors that indicated deep thought. "You felt good while your metabolic rates increased? By factors that should have caused cellular damage? Exercise is supposed to make you feel good," Sam explained. "That's kind of the point." Professor Zim, who had requested emergency counseling after the gymnasium incident, spoke from his position near the room's atmospheric controls. "Their bone density readings are extraordinary, and their muscle-to-mass ratios are unlike anything in our databases. They're built like biological machinery designed for combat." "We're not built for combat," River protested. "We're built for Earth." This statement prompted a flurry of discussion among the faculty members in languages the translation devices couldn't properly handle. Director Nal called for order, his skin shifting through diplomatic colors meant to promote calm and rational thinking. "Perhaps we should examine exactly what Earth represents," Director Nal suggested. "Computer, display planetary classification data for Sol III." The room's central display activated, showing a three-dimensional model of Earth rotating slowly in space. Data streams appeared around the planet, listing atmospheric composition, gravitational parameters, climate variations, and geological activity levels. "Class Luthine Deathworld," the computer announced in neutral tones. "Atmospheric composition includes corrosive oxygen and reactive nitrogen compounds. Gravitational field strength 2.94 times galactic standard. Seismic activity extreme. Weather patterns violent and unpredictable. Native life forms aggressive and competitive. Evolutionary pressure maximum survival selection." Counselor Hex, whose species specialized in interspecies psychology, made notes through their neural interface. "The classification parameters indicate that intelligent life should be impossible under such conditions. How did your species achieve sapience in such an environment?" "We got good at working together," Casey said simply. "And we got good at solving problems." "You got good at surviving," Dr. Mel corrected. "Everything about your physiology reflects evolutionary adaptations for survival under extreme conditions. Your reaction times, your strength-to-weight ratios, your sensory acuity, your pattern recognition abilities, your apex predators who developed intelligence." Morgan shifted uncomfortably in their reinforced chair. "We don't think of ourselves as predators. We're explorers, artists, scientists." "You're all of those things," Director Nal agreed. "But you're also the products of an evolutionary environment that would be lethal to most galactic species. This creates unique challenges for integration." Chief Engineer Tall presented his analysis of the gymnasium damage. "The equipment failures weren't caused by malicious intent or reckless behavior. They were caused by normal human movement patterns exceeding our safety parameters by orders of magnitude. The students were actually demonstrating remarkable restraint." "Restraint?" Professor Zim's voice carried harmonics of disbelief. "According to the biometric data, all 5 humans were operating at approximately 15% of their maximum physical capacity during the incident," Toll confirmed. "They were being gentle by their standards." The room fell silent as the implications of this statement settled over the assembled faculty. The destruction they had witnessed represented humans holding back dramatically. What would happen if these beings actually exerted themselves? Dr. Mel accessed her research files and displayed comparative data. "I've been reviewing human evolutionary history. Your species spent 2 million years as persistence hunters, chasing prey across vast distances, until exhaustion made the kill possible. You developed the ability to run continuously for hours, to leap over obstacles, to climb vertical surfaces, and to throw projectiles with deadly accuracy. We also developed agriculture, art, music, literature, and philosophy, Alex pointed out. We're not just hunters. No, Dr. Mel agreed. You're something unprecedented in our experience. You're apex predators who chose cooperation over dominance, creation over destruction, exploration over conquest. Your evolutionary contradictions, Counselor Hex shared their psychological assessment. The humans show no signs of aggressive intent or predatory behavior toward other species. Their stress responses during the gymnasium incident were actually lower than normal, suggesting they found the physical activity enjoyable rather than threatening. They appeared to be genuinely peaceful despite their combat-optimized biology. Director Nall studied the humans thoughtfully. This presents us with a unique situation. Our standard integration protocols are designed for species who evolved under peaceful conditions. We have no framework for accommodating beings who are simultaneously dangerous and benevolent. Are we going to be expelled from the program? River asked quietly. That would be the standard response, Director Nall admitted. But expelling you would waste an unprecedented opportunity to expand our understanding of what sapient life can achieve. Chief Engineer Toll clicked his mechanical arms in patterns that indicated excitement. From an engineering perspective, the humans represent fascinating challenges. We need to design equipment that can accommodate their capabilities without compromising safety for other species. From a biological perspective, Dr. Mel added, they offer insights into evolutionary pathways we never imagined possible. Intelligence emerging from such intense selection pressure suggests new possibilities for sapient development. Professor Zim, despite his traumatic experience in the gymnasium, found himself intrigued by the educational implications. They could teach us about physical capabilities we never knew were possible. Their understanding of competitive cooperation could revolutionize our approach to group activities. Counselor Hex resonated with thoughtful harmonics. Other students are requesting transfers away from classes containing humans, but some are expressing curiosity about human culture and capabilities. There's potential for mutual learning if we can manage the safety concerns. Director Nall made a decision that would reshape educational policy throughout the galaxy. We're going to adapt rather than exclude. The humans will remain in the program, but will develop new protocols specifically designed for deathworlder integration. The humans exchanged relieved glances, but Casey raised a concern. What about the other students? We don't want anyone to be afraid of us. Fear often comes from misunderstanding, Director Nall replied. We'll implement educational programs to help other species understand human biology and behavior. And we'll develop activity programs that allow humans to participate fully while ensuring other species' safety. Chief Engineer Toll was already designing modified equipment in his mind. Reinforced platforms rated for deathworlder impact forces, variable density exercise equipment, separate activity areas with appropriate safety systems. Cultural exchange programs, suggested Counselor Hex. Let the humans teach other species about deathworld survival strategies while learning about peaceful evolution pathways. Dr. Mel accessed her research protocols. Comprehensive studies of human physiology and psychology. This could revolutionize our understanding of evolutionary biology and species development. Professor Zim, still somewhat shaken but professionally curious, nodded slowly. Modified physical education programs that challenge humans appropriately while allowing other species to participate safely. The meeting continued for several hours as faculty members developed plans for humanity's continued presence at Harmony Station. Equipment modifications, curriculum changes, safety protocols, and cultural integration strategies all needed to be designed from scratch. As the humans left Director Nall's office, they carried with them the weight of being pioneers in more ways than they had ever imagined. They weren't just exchange students anymore, they were ambassadors for an entire category of life that the galaxy was still learning to understand. Behind them, the faculty continued planning what would become the most significant educational reform in galactic history. The day humans broke the gymnasium had also broken assumptions about what was possible in a civilized society, and this was only the beginning of the changes their presence would bring. 6 months after the gymnasium incident, Harmony Station buzzed with activity that would have been unimaginable before humans arrived. Construction drones worked around the clock installing reinforced platforms, variable gravity training areas, and equipment designed to withstand what engineers now called Deathworlder specifications. The changes went far beyond simple structural modifications. Morgan stood before a packed auditorium facing an audience of 300 students from 47 different species. The weekly lecture series, Life on a Deathworld, had become the most popular educational program in the Academy's history. Students who had initially requested transfers away from human-containing classes now competed for seats at these presentations. Earth isn't trying to kill us, Morgan explained, gesturing to a holographic display showing Earth's diverse ecosystems. It just has very high standards for survival. But those standards created humans who aren't just survivors. We're builders, dreamers, explorers, and problem solvers. In the audience, Wicks had learned to maintain a more solid form during these lectures, finding that human concepts were easier to process with increased particle density. Pip resonated at frequencies that indicated deep fascination, their crystalline structure reflecting the display's light in patterns that other crystal beings interpreted as profound interest. "Your species developed art while fighting for survival?" asked a student whose translation device rendered their name as gentle currents in peaceful waters. "How is creative expression possible under such stress?" Morgan smiled, a human expression that other species had learned to recognize as indicating pleasure rather than aggression. "Maybe because of the stress, not despite it. When life is uncertain, creating something beautiful or meaningful becomes more important, not less." The question and answer period that followed demonstrated how much the Academy had changed. Students asked about human music, human sports, human poetry, and human problem-solving techniques. The initial fear had transformed into genuine curiosity and respect. Meanwhile, in the newly constructed Deathworlder Activity Center, Alex was teaching a modified version of Earth sports to volunteers from various species. The center featured equipment rated for forces that would have seemed impossible 6 months earlier, atmospheric controls that could simulate everything from mountain climbing to underwater swimming, and safety systems designed by the galaxy's best engineers working in collaboration with human consultants. "The key to basketball," Alex explained to a mixed group of students, "is teamwork, spatial awareness, and hand-eye coordination. We'll start with very gentle versions and work up to whatever feels challenging but safe for each species." The modified basketball they used was larger, softer, and equipped with smart matter technology that adjusted its weight and bounce characteristics based on who was handling it. When Pip touched it, the ball became light as gossamer and resonated at frequencies the crystal being could easily track. When Wicks interacted with it, the ball's surface became permeable to allow gaseous manipulation. River worked with the Academy's engineering students on projects that combined human problem-solving approaches with alien technology. Their latest collaboration involved developing rescue equipment for emergency situations that no single species could handle alone. Human pattern recognition and adaptability paired with alien technological precision created solutions neither could have achieved independently. "Humans think in terms of multiple simultaneous problems," River explained to their Altarian lab partner. "We're used to dealing with situations where everything goes wrong at once. Your species excels at elegant, single-purpose solutions. Together, we can create systems that are both robust and efficient." Casey had become an unofficial ambassador between human and alien students, helping both groups understand each other's perspectives and capabilities. Their natural empathy, combined with growing knowledge of alien psychology, made them invaluable in preventing misunderstandings that could have led to diplomatic incidents. "Remember," Casey told a group of new human exchange students who had arrived the previous week, "they're not fragile, they're specialized. Their evolution optimized them for their environments just like ours optimized us for Earth. Respect their capabilities and they'll respect yours. The new human students looked around at the modified facilities with amazement. The original gymnasium had been completely redesigned, with sections for different activity levels and safety requirements. What the Academy now called standard participation areas accommodated traditional galactic species, while enhanced challenge zones allowed humans and other high-capability beings to exercise at levels appropriate to their biology. Sam had become Professor Zim's unofficial assistant in developing new physical education curricula. The Kepler native had overcome his initial shock to become fascinated by human movement patterns and exercise physiology. Together, they created activity programs that challenged students of all capabilities while promoting the cooperation and mutual understanding that remained central to galactic educational philosophy. Observe how the humans move between platforms, Professor Zim instructed a class of mixed species. Notice their three-dimensional spatial awareness, their instinctive compensation for momentum and gravity variations, their automatic adjustment for equipment response characteristics. These are learned behaviors, not genetic programming. Several alien students had begun requesting basic training in human-style movement patterns, not because they could replicate the performance, but because the underlying principles of adaptation and environmental awareness were universally applicable. The changes extended throughout the Academy's curriculum. Philosophy classes examined the ethical implications of survival-based versus cooperation-based evolution. Sociology students studied human cultural development as an example of aggressive species achieving peaceful civilization. Psychology courses investigated the human capacity for both individual excellence and group cooperation. Dr. Mel had published 17 research papers on human biology and behavior, revolutionizing galactic understanding of evolutionary possibilities. Her work suggested that the galaxy's peaceful species might benefit from controlled exposure to challenge and competition, while humans demonstrated that aggressive evolutionary backgrounds didn't prevent the development of cooperative civilizations. The humans have taught us that diversity includes not just different body types and environmental preferences, but different evolutionary histories and survival strategies, she explained to a gathering of xenobiologists. They represent proof that intelligence can emerge from any sufficiently complex evolutionary pressure. Director Nall found himself managing the most dynamic and rapidly changing educational environment in galactic history. The Academy's reputation had transformed from prestigious and traditional to innovative and groundbreaking. Applications from students throughout the galaxy had increased by 300%. With many specifically requesting exposure to human teaching methods and perspectives. 6 months ago, we were concerned about integrating 5 human students, he told the Galactic Educational Council during his quarterly report. Today, we're teaching fundamental new approaches to education, engineering, and interspecies cooperation to thousands of students from hundreds of worlds. The council chamber buzzed with discussion as representatives processed the implications of Harmony Station's transformation. What had begun as a controversial experiment in deathworlder integration had become a model for educational innovation throughout galactic civilization. Ambassador Thex, who had originally advocated for human inclusion in the exchange program, felt vindicated in ways he hadn't anticipated. The humans have exceeded our most optimistic projections. They've not only integrated successfully, they've elevated the entire program. The 5 original human students gathered in Alex's room on the anniversary of their arrival, looking out at the star field beyond the station. The view was the same, but everything else had changed. They had come to Harmony Station as nervous, teenagers hoping to prove humans deserved a place in galactic society. They were leaving as young adults who had helped reshape what galactic society could become. "Think we made an impression?" Sam asked with characteristic understatement. "We broke their gym," Alex replied, "and their assumptions about what's possible." River pulled up the Academy's latest enrollment statistics on their display. Next semester, they're expecting students from 12 death worlds, 3 heavy gravity worlds, and 2 high radiation environments. They're calling it the Extreme Adaptation Program. Casey smiled at the data. We're not the only dangerous species anymore. Morgan nodded toward the construction activity visible through the viewport. They're building an entire new section for high-capability students. Climate simulation chambers, variable gravity sports facilities, equipment testing laboratories. The humans had accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. They had taken a society built on peaceful cooperation and shown it how to incorporate strength, challenge, and controlled competition without sacrificing its essential values of harmony and mutual respect. As their exchange period ended and they prepared to return to Earth, the 5 humans knew they were leaving behind more than friends and memories. They were leaving behind a galaxy that was stronger, more diverse, and more capable because it had learned to embrace the impossible. The gymnasium incident that had seemed like a disaster had become the foundation for the greatest educational revolution in galactic civilization, and in the Academy's trophy case, carefully preserved behind reinforced, transparent aluminum, sat the remains of the first Harmony Ball ever crushed by human hands. A monument to the day Deathworlders joined alien gym class and proved that sometimes breaking things is the first step toward building something better. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what it needed.